Thank you for everybody that's joining us today on our webinar. If you can, please mute your line. We are muting everybody on entry, but if you can hear what you're saying, so if you could please mute your line, I would appreciate it. With the amount of people on this call, we can't have open lines at this time.
Welcome, everyone. This is John Longstreet. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association. And sharing the webinar today with me is Melissa Bova. She's the Vice President of Government Affairs for Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, and will be the legislative point person on relief and recovery efforts for the hospitality industry in the state of Pennsylvania. Melissa will be speaking in a few moments, but I wanted to do a welcome to you. So welcome, and thank you for taking the time to sign on today. If you know folks that were not able to get on today because of a limited number of seats, we had 200 seats. We've been working for the last 2 days to try to get our provider to provide us more seats. They've been unable to do so. But when we do the next webinar, it's going to either be with more seats or with a new provider. We'll do one of the two things. So, however, this webinar is being recorded and will be on our website, the COVID-19 landing page for PRLA later today. The purpose of the webinar is to provide you with up-to-date information and how to access ongoing information, what is happening relative to relief and recovery efforts, and to answer questions. We've received a number of questions in advance, and we will do our best to answer those within the 1 hour time limit. Those that can't get answered will be included on a frequently asked questions page that will be added to the COVID-19 PRLA page later today. I should note that today's call is designed for members of PRLA and non-members of PRLA in the restaurant or hotel or travel and tourism industry or related industries. And by the way, we're treating all members of our industry as members of PRLA during this crisis, as that we are the unified voice for the industry. While we're in constant communication with the press and making sure they have accurate and up-to-date information, this webinar is not designed for the press, and I would ask that any folks from the press who might have dialed in to please disengage. There's no question that what we're facing now are unprecedented times, and that you've heard that word unprecedented hundreds of times over the last several weeks, and it doesn't even describe where we are today. It's fair to say I've been in the business longer than probably just about anybody on this call, almost 50 years. And this is beyond anything that I've ever experienced or that I'm sure any of you have experienced. I've been through several pandemics. I've been through at least 2 serious recessions and the tragedy of September 11th. And there is no disaster plans that could have been prepared for what we're facing today. The PRLA team and I understand that our challenge is what we're trying to do to support you and get relief and recovery efforts and accurate, up-to-date information pale in comparison to what you're facing and what your team members are facing. We're committed to do whatever it takes to support you in any way, night or day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our focus is on information flow, because accurate information is really important to everyone facing this pandemic. And much of the information that you're seeing either in the press or through some elected officials is not accurate and up to date. And you can count on the PRLA to vet all information and ensure that what you get through us is the source of accurate information relative to the hospitality industry. And secondly, and most importantly, the relief and recovery efforts, first for your employees. Employees need to get funds in their pockets. They need financial support. We're working on that, and Melissa's going to talk more about that later. And then secondly, to ensure that your businesses can survive the shutdowns that you're facing and come back strong so that your employees have some place to go. I should note that the closure of bars and restaurants is a public health decision. It's not a decision that's ultimately made by PRLA or even elected officials. Elected officials need to follow the advice of the public health professionals. And if you were not aware, as of a few moments ago, now 31 states plus the District of Columbia have fully closed all bars and restaurants in the United States. And I suspect, and this is an opinion here, but I suspect we're close to full closure. And the reason is because the public health officials have determined that unless we do this, this will be an epidemic of epic proportions, similar to what the country of Italy is facing right now that may not be easily solved. Today's webinar is going to focus on three priorities: the safety and protection of our employees, our guests, and the general public. We have an obligation to the general public to ensure that we're not participating in the spread of this pandemic. Secondly, economic relief for our laid off team members. And third, sources of cash flow so that businesses can survive the crisis. And then at the end, as I mentioned earlier, we will have a Q&A based on questions that have been previously submitted or those that you submit during the call using the chat feature on your screen. I suspect we may not get through all the questions. We're going to do our best to do that. And if we don't, we will ensure that they're on the FAQ page. So with that, I'm going to turn the webinar over to Melissa Bova, our VP of Government Affairs, and then I'll chime in as necessary along the way or during questions and answers. Melissa?
Thanks, John. As John mentioned, I'm going to go over everything we know. I'm going to go through as many questions as I possibly can. Things are changing. I think everybody is very frustrated with different messages that are being sent out, whether it is from the governor's office, whether it is from the media, whether it is from local government. So we're going to do our best to walk through everything that we know and tell you everything that we know. And we'll get through as many questions at the end. I will tell you, we are not a lawyer, and I'm not sure if many lawyers can help you through this. This is really such a public health crisis that we're kind of all taking it as we get the information. So I'm going to give you everything I have. For those of you that have heard me speak before, I'm very honest and blunt and sometimes snarky. Today will be no different. Let's get through everything that we have right now. As of right now, we do have well over 100 cases of COVID in the state of Pennsylvania. The vast majority is in the southeast part of the state. We have over 32 cases in Montgomery County alone. That's really what triggered a lot of these health aspects and health declarations that got us to where we are right now. On Friday of last week, Thursday and Friday, the governor declared that non-essential businesses in Montgomery County should shut down. He specifically mentioned restaurants and bars. It was a strong recommendation. There was no mandate. There was no requirement for them to shut down. We got through the weekend with that. 9:30 on Sunday night, the governor released another press release that declared that 5 counties, the 4, we call them collar counties in southeast Pennsylvania, Bucks, Delaware, Chester, and Montgomery County, in addition to Allegheny County, needed to shut down by midnight on Sunday. For reasons that we don't understand, she made that announcement. We fully expected a statewide closure of restaurants and bars, and that is exactly what happened on Monday of this week. At 2 o'clock, he had a press conference declaring that all bars and restaurants will be closed at midnight in Philadelphia. And I will cross over a little bit. Philadelphia is pretty much aligned with us, but a little different. And I'll get into that when we get to some of the questions, because things like paid sick leave, which we will touch on in Philadelphia, is a little bit different. Philadelphia on Monday declared all bars and restaurants must close by 5 p.m. In Philadelphia.
So can I make a clarification? That's really what on what I said too. When we say they close, we mean to dine-in services. Bars and restaurants are still allowed to serve delivery and takeout. And it's the same for most of the other 31 states that I mentioned, because understanding that the restaurant industry represents, at least in dollar sales, more than half of the food chain, it's necessary that restaurants still be able to deliver and get food to patrons, even though they cannot open for dine-in services.
Yes, and that will be our next slide that I will delve into in a minute. I will reiterate this again. The governor said bars and restaurants, entertainment venues, and non-essential businesses must close. There was a lot of vagueness and confusion relating to that. At this time, the governor is still strongly urging those non-essential businesses to close. Bars and restaurants, it is not an option. If you do not close your doors, they will send in, the Department of Ag is enforcing, LCE on behalf of the PLCB is enforcing. So in the grand scheme of things, while the governor is strongly urging closures, bars and restaurants and hotels, restaurants in hotels must have closed by midnight on Monday. And then can we go to the next slide? As I said, restaurants must cease dine-in services. The goal with all of this is to avoid the congregation of people. I know all of you, if you are a restaurant, you've been practicing social distance. The governor felt we needed to go a step further. With that being said, dine-in services, in terms of the governor's interpretation, I know it's going to be 75 degrees on Friday, does include outdoor seating as well. And we expect a clarification from his office within the next day or two. It is the congregation of people that is kind of the underlying part of this declaration from the governor. So if you have outdoor seating, you cannot provide table service, you cannot provide service to that area. If people order takeout and they choose to eat it at your outdoor seating area, that is probably beyond your control, but the governor does believe that outside seating is part of the shutdown order. Takeout, delivery, and drive-through are all permitted, and they are urged if you can find a way to do it. We are a part of the food chain in all of this, our industry especially. I think we're seeing all the time the lines at grocery stores, the liquor stores, and we'll get to LCB in a second, shut down last night. We are a part of the food chain, and it is important, if you're able to provide that takeout or delivery if at all possible. Discounts are an option. Social media are a great way to advertise that, to get it out to your constituency, to your customers. This is really a time, I think, as a nation, we can all unite and support each other. And I think that's something that you should take advantage of if you're able to. Let's talk a little bit on the PLCB. I know there are a lot of questions on that, and I'm going to get through as much as I can. As of midnight or 9 o'clock last night, all state stores in the state of Pennsylvania have been shut down. That includes your licensee service centers. So all licensees in Pennsylvania, as of right now, are not able to get additional product from what you would have already purchased before the shutdown notice. This is for internally. The LCB hopes to be at least 2 weeks. It might go farther than that. We are working with the LCB in an effort to try and allow product, some way for you to acquire product. That is something that is going to take time. We do acknowledge the need for product and selling that, and I will touch on that as of right now. You can sell beer to go. All licensees in the state of Pennsylvania can sell up to 192 ounces of beer out the door. If you have a wine expanded permit, you can sell up to 4 bottles of wine. As of right now, you can continue to deliver beer if you have a transporter for hire license. You must have a transporter for hire license from the LCB to deliver beer. You may not deliver wine in Pennsylvania as of this moment. Again, this is something that we are working with the LCB to try and expand for you to kind of get through this time. You can sell wine to go, like I said, if you have a wine expanded permit. You cannot deliver wine. You cannot sell spirits in the state of Pennsylvania as of right now. There are some requirements or some things the LCB is doing during this time. For those of you very educated licensees, if your license is not in use for 2 weeks, you have to put it in safekeeping. That has been put to the side. No one needs to put their license in safekeeping at this time. If you're up for renewal right now, renewals will not be processed at this time through the LCB. In addition, we're expecting more clarifications and more leniencies from the LCB as we work through this. We are aware that New York is allowing wine and spirits to be sold to go. We are working with the legislature and the LCB to try and expand that for licensees in the state of Pennsylvania. So for our hotels, we've gotten a lot of questions on that. Hotels in Philadelphia and in Pennsylvania are considered an essential business. Hotels are not required to close in the state of Pennsylvania. If you choose to do so, that is entirely a business decision that you are absolutely able to make. You do have to shut down your in-service restaurants, your in-house restaurants. You can do takeout from your restaurants. You can do room service from your restaurants. And like I said, the underlying item here is congregating. We do not want people to congregate in the hotel. If somebody comes and gets takeout from your in-house restaurant and goes and sits in the lobby to eat their food, That is beyond your control. The customer can choose to do that, but your licensed food area cannot be sold to customers. Customers cannot congregate in that area. In addition, gyms are required to shut down. If you're a hotel, you should be shutting down your fitness centers. Once again, congregate is the word of the day. That's what we're looking to avoid here. And then, as always, room service and takeout, as I mentioned, are still permitted in hotels. We are well aware of everything that you are going through. And this, as John said, is something that the industry has never seen before. And we are responding to many, many requests and calls from our members every single day. These are some of the things that we are doing right now. I do urge you, as I go through these, we have sent out a press release yesterday that was sent to the media. We also sent it to the full legislature of things that we feel need to be done right now. And let me reiterate that. There is a long list of things our industry will need to get out of this. We are focusing right now on items that need to be done immediately to help our industry. And that is our focus. And that's what we're asking you to focus on right now. All members and prospects should have gotten an email yesterday about outreach to legislators. That is on our website, PRLA.org, to reach out to your legislators and ask for the things that I'm going to touch upon right now. Number one, the Department of Labor and Industry has waived the 1-week waiting period to apply for unemployment. So if you are laying off your employees, they can apply and receive benefits on the first day that they are laid off. With that being said, there is still up to 4 weeks before they will receive their first payment. We believe this needs to be fast-tracked. None of you chose to lay off your employees. This is an unprecedented time. One of the asks we are asking is the fact that these funds need to be released immediately to employees that now have no source of income. Second, and this will come from the federal level, we do expect this, is that rates will not change for businesses as your employees are filing for unemployment. We are in the midst of a pandemic. This will not impact your employer rates. Third, and this is probably the number one thing we would ask you to focus on if you're calling your legislators and sending communications. Sales tax is due in 2 days in Pennsylvania, and we are all very cognizant that cash flow is non-existent in our industry. We want to preserve cash flow as much as we are able. So we are asking for a delay of that March 20th deadline, in addition to a sales tax holiday during the course of this pandemic, not only for you, but for consumers in the state of Pennsylvania. In addition, we have asked the city of Philadelphia to delay liquor tax remittance and beverage tax remittance. On that front, Philadelphia continues, if you've been watching their press conference, to say they need the feds to act first before they do anything on their end, but we are pushing them to delay those items. Another huge issue I know for many of you is you are caught in a stranglehold with your insurance companies in terms of a clause that is in your agreement with them that there's a virus out clause, which means that if you are shut down, insurance companies are not paying out for that because there's a clause that says that they don't have to in your agreement. This is something we believe the insurance companies could change. They could do the right thing here and allow you to receive benefits and some of the financial resources you need. We're asking them publicly to do so. We're also asking the legislature to act legislatively if they refuse to do so. Many of you are asking about the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration does have loans that's up to $2 million per business to get you through this. Pennsylvania, all 67 counties have applied for it. That came in late Monday night. Pennsylvania declared yesterday, so that should be posted on the Small Business Administration site today. With that being said, there is a 3.75% interest rate tied to that could be paid over 30 years. We believe there should be no interest loans for businesses as you work through this, and that is something we will be iterating as we communicate through our national associations and our state legislature as well. So these, as I said, are things we're asking you to reach out to your legislators right now. This is not a part of the long list of needs we know our industry will need to get us through this at the other side of it. We have a ton of resources on our website. As we said, PRLA.org/coronavirus. That is being sent out, updated every single day. You are receiving emails from us, the daily emails from John every single day. That will be constant as we work through this. It will have the most up-to-date information that we feel you need to know. Our national affiliates, the National Restaurant Association and the American Hotel and Lodging Association, have great resources on the national level. Pennsylvania Department of Health, if you're like me, you might have that up on your computer all day long. CDC and the World Health Organization are also great resources. On the state agency side, I would urge you to pay attention to DCED's site. I was on a conference call this morning with the administration. We expect at least 4 announcements today, some coming from DCED that will contain information for businesses in terms of loans and things that will be done to help businesses work through this. We will get that out in our daily update to you today, but we do expect an announcement from the governor's office today in terms of helping businesses. We sent a long list of anecdotal stories and aggregate data to his office yesterday to show the impact on our industry as we work through this. And also unemployment compensation, Department of Labor and Industry. We are well aware, and we have made it very clear that that site has been crashing. The online chat has not been working. The phone lines are busy. We are working through all of that in terms of labor and industry. A call was had yesterday to talk about that. We are putting a lot of pressure that this is not a day-to-day occurrence. Things need to be fast-tracked, and employment needs to be increased in that office to help all of you. I see one question. I'll touch on it really quick. It is not 6 to 8 weeks for small biz SBA loans. They will be out within 2 weeks of application. They are fast tracking that. So we were told they will be out within 2 weeks upon application. Okay. And from that, I think we're going to go into some questions. How much time? Okay. Let's see. We have some questions that were sent out ahead of time, and then I think we have staff in our office is compiling other questions that we will touch upon when we get to it. As I said, you cannot have outdoor seating open. I did touch upon that. Customers can enter the business to pick up a to-go order and to pay for a to-go order. That is permitted. We have gotten clarification from Philadelphia and the state in terms of to-go. So they can enter the business to pick up an order. We do urge you, some businesses are being very creative. They are offering delivery on their own. It's a way to keep their employees employed, and they are offering delivery outside of that Uber Eats Grubhub platform. Sorry, go ahead, John.
You've probably seen there was a question about how can you access third-party delivery services. The bigger ones, DoorDash, I think Grubhub and DoorDash specifically was mentioned this morning, is offering a no-fee service to new restaurants that want to sign up for it. So they're trying to gear up to get ready for this. Obviously, there's a lot of labor available, and they're working hard to try to make sure that food gets delivered, not only to help their business and yours, but as a public service. So I would encourage you to start with the big ones: Uber Eats, Grubhub, DoorDash, and then any of the local ones that you may have. I know in Philadelphia, our person there, Ben Fleccia, who's on the call too, has been working with Philadelphia restaurateurs to help get them connected, and is also and helping them set up their own delivery services.
Yes, so that's something that we definitely urge you to take advantage of. I know locally, and this is something that you should reach out to your local media on. Some news outlets are doing a really great job of compiling those businesses that are offering to-go options to consumers. That's a great way to get the word out. But honestly, social media is really how the word is getting out. And I know that there's a lot of interest. And I think as we work through this and people are home, they're going to want something different to eat, and they're going to be interested in that type of option. And I will iterate again, I think that we will see an expansion of the requirements of people not to be outside and social. I think we will see, I know in Harrisburg today, I've never driven into the office as fast as I did this morning. The governor is going to urge all businesses that do not need to be open. And he this morning iterated again, professional services, anything like that should be working remotely. Nobody should be going into an office at this point in time. Some other questions that we got, limited menus are a great option, I think, in this. We do have some businesses that are doing special to-go options. A great thing to think about is family meals. I think a lot of restaurants are jumping on board with that. You know, enough food to feed a family of 4 for a certain price. I think that's certainly something that consumers are interested in. Something that I want to touch upon, because this just came out from Philadelphia yesterday. Philadelphia is saying that employees can collect paid sick leave because of the closure of business. This is a huge issue, I think, for some restaurants, especially if your employees are maxed out to the 7 days of paid sick leave that they can acquire. There is no cash flow to pay this out, but Philadelphia has said that your employees can collect paid sick leave if you are shut down. If you shut down and tell your employees they are laid off and send them to unemployment, then paid sick leave would not apply. But if you are shut down and still trying to pay your employees, you can assess paid sick leave on the time that they are off. That applies to all businesses in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, you haven't really acquired any leave yet, but in Philadelphia, that can be allowed. Statewide, if you have paid sick leave and you want to use that and give it to your employees who might not be able to work, that is a business option that you have. Philadelphia is the only place that is mandating the ability to use paid sick leave. We had a question about buffets. There is no connection of COVID-19 to buffets. With that being said, I think a key word second keyword of the day outside of congregate is optics. And I think that is where people are really running into confusion and concern as it pertains to buffets. If you go on our website, Ecolab last week had a phenomenal webinar for restaurants, and they did touch upon buffets in that if you are keeping a buffet open, to be honest, the only way you would is if you're on the call and you're a grocery store. But down the line, if buffets are open, you would need to look at that Ecolab notice. So I won't touch on that because at this point, your restaurant shouldn't even be open. I did talk about Small Business Administration. As I said, we're working on sales tax. Liquor license renewals are not required to be renewed at this time. We had a question of PLCB accepting unopened bottles. PLCB is shut down right now, so there is no ability for them to accept the return of product. This is, as a side note, I think a huge reason what happens when you don't privatize an industry, because it is state controlled. The state has shut them down. Nothing is open in terms of the LCB, so there is no ability to return products at this time. And again, you do not need to do any renewals at this time through the PLCB. Bed and breakfast, can they serve breakfast? Technically, bed and breakfasts do not have a food license in the state of Pennsylvania. So the shutdown of restaurants would not apply to the serving of breakfast at a bed and breakfast. With that being said, we really do urge you to be safe and use all health practices that are needed in terms of serving your guests.
Probably an ancillary question to this would be in a select service hotel that provides free breakfast through a buffet. They could not have dine-in services, so they would have to use a grab-and-go option for that. Probably what a bed and breakfast should be doing as well, just out of the abundance of caution. Most of the select serve hotels already have that feature available for their guests that don't have time to eat their breakfast, but that's what they would have to go to in the meantime.
We do have a question relating to hotels. If a guest or staff member is diagnosed with the virus, will the hotel be required to close? That is all entirely up to the Department of Health and the CDC. Currently, when there is an infection, they are going with, in terms of people that person has been in close contact with. There have not been any business closures at this time, but in terms of somebody having contracted the virus within a hotel or your place of business, you will be following all guidance from the Department of Health and the CDC in that scenario. We do have some questions about unemployment. Go online. That is the fastest way to do it. I would not call the number. The Department of Labor and Industry does have a website specific to COVID-19 in terms of filing for unemployment. They have waived, as I said, there's a 1-week waiting period that has been waived. There's a requirement for unemployment that says that you have to prove that you have searched for work. That has been waived. If you are laying off your employees, I encourage you to tell them to go to that website and file for unemployment immediately. We are on the federal level. We haven't touched on this today because I think we're going to get a lot more information today in terms of relief, in terms of that waiting period that we're seeing people waiting for when it comes to unemployment checks that will go to employees that are laid off. There is a 90-day delay in terms of remitting your federal taxes. The April 15th deadline has been extended 90 days. In our update today that will go out to all of you, we will have much more information on what the federal government is doing. And I think that's a key point here. The feds are taking steps to help, and that it's that trickle down that's going to help us to do more at the state and local level in terms of getting funding to all of you to get you through this. What else do we have in terms of questions?
While Melissa's pulling up the next question, let me say that if you don't believe you're getting the updates, they're probably in one of your spam filters. Look for them in there and please release them, because so you can get the updates. It's really important to get this information. And then secondly, I wanted to reiterate that everyone in our database, whether they're a member of PRLA or not a member of PRLA, is getting our information flow. We have a critical responsibility to the industry to make sure that they have that. So consequently, we've enabled all prospects, anyone who may be in there, any delinquent members are now members again, and we're reaching out to all restaurants and hotels, members or not, and getting their information, no strings attached, so that we can get them on the information flow. It's really important as the voice of the industry that people be getting our information, and we're doing that outreach today. Make sure that if you're not getting the updates, that you check your spam and enable your computers to receive our messages. You need those messages. Melissa?
Yep, so some questions. Beer distributors, because they are selling food, I mean, it might be chips and crackers and nuts, are allowed to be open at this time. I will, and I'm going to say this again, as this virus is spreading and every day the numbers continue to increase, we might see more crackdowns. So businesses that are open now that believe that they are essential, that might change. So that's something to keep in mind as well as we work through this. Our Pennsylvania and the entire country is going to do whatever they can to stop the spread of this virus. So beer distributors right now are open. They might not be down the line. Another item is that grocery stores are selling beer and wine. Grocery stores are obtaining their wine from a giant warehouse outside of the state. They're sending in their own trucks. That is why they're still able to acquire wine. And that is something we're trying to look into for all of you as well, to try and give you that option in terms of acquiring product. I know some of you had said you will drive to another state to get product, and that is something that we're looking into. We have a question relating to, do hotels need to close their pools? Have they iterated that hotels need to close their pools? No. I would probably say that it could be considered part of your fitness center. And you need to just, at the end of the day, you need to do what's best for your guests and I think for the general public. So while there is no clear delineation that you must close your pools, I would iterate that it would be a smart idea at this time to shut down your pools and your fitness center facilities on premise.
Melissa, do fitness centers have to be shut down?
Fitness centers are strongly urged to be shut down at this time. If they do not shut down, I would anticipate the governor, that will be the next thing the governor cracks down on.
Thank you.
What else do we have? As of right now, and this is, like I said, number one, please go to our website and start reaching out to your legislators. As of right now, sales tax payments are due on the 20th of this month, are due in 2 days. So are we hoping that there will not be any penalties if you don't remit? Yes, but that has not been delineated. So as of right now, all tax payments, liquor payments, all of that will be due on their specific dates unless we get an announcement otherwise, which is why it is so important that you are reaching out to legislators about that specifically. That is our most timely issue right now. We are working as well, as I said, in non-interest loans. We are reaching out to the Bankers Association in terms of working with the banks to get low interest loans or no interest loans, delaying of mortgage payments. We are looking at the government to step in terms of allowing you not to pay rent. We are very cognizant of that. There's no cash flow within your business right now, and we are working to push back any payments that you might have while this takes place. And I will say this, we are operating on a 2-week time frame right now, and I would be lying to you if I said I think it's going to be just 2 weeks. I think that we might be looking at a longer time frame to stop the flow of this. And I will reiterate this again. I know many of you are frustrated, and I know many of you want to open, but if we are allowing the congregation of people and this spreads, this will go on for a much longer period of time. So we do want to reiterate the fact that we are going to do everything within our power to help you through this. We are going to get every ounce of government funding that we can to help you through this. But please, let's stop the flow of this virus so we can all get back to reality and open our businesses and serve the public and do what we do best as soon as possible. We are, as I said, there's a question about the communicable disease and virus clause from insurance forms. That is one of the asks we're asking you to reach out to legislators on. That's another key issue for all of you. Let's see, what else do we have here? We have a question of our employees are offering to work free. Is that legal? That is not legal. That's awesome that your employees want to do so. But if they are working, they do need to be compensated for that work. Now, you can certainly negotiate pay and all of that, but you do have to pay them if they are working. Questions regarding food trucks. Food trucks would be selling to go. So if you are a food truck and you're selling to go, you can continue to operate. If you have seating outside of your food truck, because you have been in the same location for a long time, you must close the food truck. As of right now, it's something we're keeping. There's a question of hotels being ordered to close. As we said, hotels have been determined to be an essential business. With that being said, we are cognizant of what's happening on the West Coast in terms of the government looking at hotels as a quarantine center, and that's something that we're looking at and keeping an eye on here in Pennsylvania. Do we have any other? We are working, like I said, on rent, things like that.
If there's any question that you had that you'd either sent in before or just sent in that we didn't get, and we just got some compiled that you just sent in that Melissa went through. If you didn't hear an answer to the question you had, we will be putting them all up on an FAQ page. I also want to reiterate that our goal now is to be the information resource for you. So don't assume that we're too busy to talk to you. We're busy. This is why we're here. Like I said, what we're trying to get done pales compared to what you're trying to do right now. So reach out to any of us either by our work phones, our cell phones, or our email addresses, day or night, if you have questions, concerns, or you just need to bounce something off us. You can tell that we're trying to make sure that we leave no stone unturned. We're in daily contact with the National Restaurant Association and through them, our federal legislatures relative to federal legislation. And obviously, we're in contact with our state legislature and the governor's office constantly. We're also in contact with the AHLA on a regular basis, as well as AHOA, the Asian American Hotel Owners Association. There's a very strong coordinated efforts. We also have a daily call with most of the other 52 states to discuss things that are going on there to make sure that we're utilizing best practice sharing. So we're trying to do everything that we can, but again, we're here for you. Don't hesitate to contact us anytime with a question, concern, or any issue that's on your mind. It's been very gratifying to see how the industry comes together. It's too bad that it has to be in the face of a crisis like this, but it's very gratifying to see all the great stories of how people are helping people, and that's what we're here for. I would also ask you to, if you talk to anybody who wanted to access this webinar but could not because of the restrictions imposed by our carrier, make sure to let them know that it'll be online later today. And lastly, on the point of communication, we're treating every restaurant, hotel, and travel and tourism person in the state as if they were a PRLA member, regardless to whether their ability to pay. And so anybody that needs to get on this information flow, if you send their email addresses to any of us here and their contact information, We'll get them on the flow. We won't ask them to become a member. We're not selling memberships right now. We're just trying to serve people. That's what we do best. And so please make sure that you help get those folks connected with the resources they need through us. Melissa, you might have a couple more questions that come in now.
Yeah, there are a significant number of questions relating to unemployment, and can you give a cash gift to your employees to kind of help them get through when they get unemployment? That is not illegal. Severance packages actually count against unemployment, but we're going to get some information from a legal opinion in terms of what you can do in terms of that. The law is not clear because, quite frankly, this is not something we've ever dealt with before. So we are going to look at options. I know that's a very common question. Another very common question is if you are laying off your employees, you want to ensure that they can keep their health insurance. At this time, that's really a discussion with your insurance company. Typically, your policies require them to be employed to receive insurance, but that is an insurance policy decision that needs to be made. I did get a question regarding Philly sick leave. Hours can be carried over year to year, but they are maxed out. I don't want to speak out. I think Philly's 40 hours a year, Pittsburgh's 35. So if they have 20 hours at the end of their year, whether you operate on a calendar year or on an anniversary year, hours can be carried over. That, like I said, is something that if you're in Philadelphia, you really need to look at your cash flow and think through that in terms of you want to keep your employees employed, but do you have the cash flow to keep them employed? And then if you take a step further, pay them paid sick leave to get them through it. That's a decision you need to make as a business. But in Philadelphia and in Pittsburgh, when we get to that point, hours can roll over whether you're operating on a calendar year or an anniversary year. And there are, and we are well aware, a lot of concerns, and we are going to get a legal opinion on this as well. What can be done for undocumented workers? Obviously, they cannot apply for unemployment. That is an area that I think we're all trying to work through as well. We will be having a specific webinar once we finalize a speaker regarding unemployment. I think that's probably the next biggest topic that people are asking about. We will also be looking at wage and hour options, maybe a webinar on that as well. We are going to be having webinars possibly up to 2 times a week. We are going to communicate, like I said, daily the information we're receiving, but we're also going to get legal experts to do webinars as well to work through some of those really specific issues that all of you are struggling with at this point in time. I think I went through all of the questions that I have. I don't know if we have any others.
Okay. Again, I can't reiterate enough that we're here for you. Anything we can do to help. There's a skeletal crew at the office here. Following the governor's advice, most PRLA team members will be working remotely, but they are all still working. And Melissa and I will be here most days, and we intend to live answer all of our calls throughout the crisis until we're forced to all go remote, because it's that important that we're accessible to the industry when they need help. So thank you for taking the time to tune in today. Again, the webinar will be available later today online, as all the previous webinars are. And please make sure that you're clicking on the COVID-19 webpage at PRLA, which is in everybody's signature box on our email messages. If you can't find it through our website, you just click on our signature box. It shows there. And then lastly, please make sure you're looking for that daily update, which will typically come out late in the afternoon, the most current state, federal, and to the degree that there is different information, local information. Thank you, Melissa, for all of the good work you're doing on this. It's literally been 24 hours a day, every day since this starts, and we're prepared to keep that up as long as we need to. With that, I'll sign off, and thanks again for all your support for our terrific, great industry.